The same can happen if we're in a sort of cross-body position. We're not able to acquire north-south head control. We see someone's like this. If I apply pressure on the far side of Anthony's spine, he's more likely to yield there, come out here, and then I have a danger of biting a shot or getting stabbed in the groin. So I'll generally attack the close side if I have no head control so that he'll turn up. Normally, I'll flatten my body out. Balls of the feet are blades on the inside edge. And I'll drive in like this, and I'll command him to give me his hands. If it's a situation where I'm either morally, legally, or contextually justified to use head restraint, I will favor going on the far side, which would invite him to turn to me, but then stop it with a head crank. And I'll go cross-face with my wrist here so that I can hold that together and drive. And I'll say, give me your hands, let me see your hands, hands out, give me your hands now! And his hands will go out. If they don't go out, there's going to be severe damage to the neck. It's a devastating shot. If in that position you were to bounce, even lightly on the back, you can feel the ribs moving like a piano key. So tremendous caution. I've had my rib actually separated from my spine itself, so you want to be really careful on this one. Hugely painful. This is already getting into the domain of respiratory affectation. So if you are a professional and you have any sort of limitations like we do in Canada about working on the rectangle of the back or any concerns for positional asphyxia, this one's off the table. If you're not allowed to do neck affectations, this one's off the table. But if you're in a restraint situation where hands go under, it's generally justified to suspect lethal force. Somebody's going for a weapon, you demand them to give your hands, the hands don't come out. I will go for spine and neck in any context and in any environment. One particular concern when we have the hands hidden is to find out where that weapon is. So there are a few ways that we can enhance our odds. If we're working with a colleague or a teammate in a professional environment, ideally they're going to try to stay at a safe distance. Marc-Andre is actually a little bit closer than we would normally have, but we're doing so for a facility of camera, and he would be ready to peekaboo underneath the body. If he was just a bystander, I could say, get down on your knees, tell me, can you see a weapon? Can you see a weapon? And I would commandeer a person on the outside, if I can. If they don't respond, well, you're no worse off. If they do give you some information, it's a benefit. Normally what I'm looking to do is shut down the close side. So normally we do that by putting pressure and keeping the stomach low. If you're not able, again, I keep my stomach low, my body can touch, my knees can sweep the floor, but they're not in any way resting. I don't want to be on my knees taking weight off. I want all my weight to be on the balls or blades of my feet, pushing into the human. Not everybody has that spinal strength to endure the position, the mass, or the experience to create the drive. So failing that, we can just frog in with our knees in the face and in the sides of the ribs to restrain his mobility on this close side arm. And what I look to do is I drive down, and I'm looking to get what's called a short arm scissor or a weave. One is going to punch literally inside if I have to, and I'm going to grind through, usually with a leopard fist so that my fingers are not exposed and vulnerable. I'll get through the crook of his arm. The other one is going to go under, and I'm going to in effect be inside his elbow and around his elbow. So now he can't extend. If Sebastian starts to get his hand out or tries to move, it's completely in this weave and I have good control. And what I'll do in that position usually is I'll rock him. And I'll go like that, and Marc-Andre will look. It's a peekaboo. Can you see the weapon?
I can see weapon. I can see weapon.
What's
left
that?
hand. Left hand.
So then I'll start to work. And if I know it's in his left, I'll start to work for it. I'll put pressure on that, in this case, the ulnar nerve, and I'll start to work to take it out. Yeah? Sometimes people, and I can tell you this from if you're recruiting sort of innocence in the environment, they'll see, there's something, I think he has a knife. And the information's not always right. Once we had a watch, once somebody had their glass in their hand, their plastic cup that got all crushed up, and the other person thought it was a knife. Sometimes they'll say, I think I see something, I'm not sure, and they can't tell you what hand it's in because the person's hands are so close together. But sometimes it can give you a little bit of extra information. Failing that, if you're working alone, it allows me at least to start working, and then I can look at how can I put my knee either on the shoulder, or better yet, on the inside bend of his elbow. So that as I start to weave this up, now I can see. If I don't see anything in this, but I see it on that hand, I'll start to work immediately to keep these apart, and I'll keep pressure. He'll generally try to get up, get on his knees and tackle if he's fully resistant. So anything I can do to keep his face sideways, in this case my foot wedging under his head, winding the spine is good. And I'll usually look to strip that off with a compression in the back. So I'll show you what I do here. Any position. I'm usually looking for that ulnar nerve. The condyle of the bone is here. So I want to put pressure just above and grind. So my weight is here. It's going to cause some flexion, and then I'll look to compress that wrist to take it off if I can. A lot of this will be done quite low, but these are just a few more specialized concerns for a hand hider, which is, if you've ever been in this context, is mortifying. Law enforcement officers face it routinely, bouncers face it routinely. Civilians are often not prepped for it. So understand that you want to see hands. Hand hiding is not acceptable. Don't ever underestimate the danger of it. And if you're not able or comfortable in this position, abandon fast. You see the hands underneath, put your body on them, push off and create distance. Get an improvised object, a chair, coat off belt, or run to safety. This is a dangerous position. When seeking that short arm scissor, or sometimes called a far side arm weave, I will generally, whether I'm in a frog position or splayed out, I will generally look to punch under with the head side arm. And the reason for that is that there's usually more room here. He can keep his elbow tightly pressed to the ground, make it hard for me to get underneath. But he can't do much to keep that shoulder under. There's always crevasses and space where you can fit, so it's usually easier to access. Secondly, if I can't get the full weave, or even if I do have it, I can easily now migrate back to my north-south head scissor and crank that over. And this is where I really ultimately want to be. Another thing I can do, aside from transitioning from the braid to the head scissor, or vice versa, from the head scissor to a full braid, is I can also go around the other side of the body, going from the head scissor to a hammerlock. And the hammerlock in this position, I'm going to fix my hand as my fulcrum, rotate my elbow up, and pull with the other hand. The goal of the hammerlock is to never keep your hand in the shoulder. It's a common failing. By doing this, I deprive myself of all of that mechanical advantage that the lever of his humerus wants to provide. If I crank here, it takes a lot of force. Look how high that's getting. If by comparison I go low, I prefer to, some people like to put the radius, I like to put the fist hook and the ulna in. I start to crank, look at the separation occurring. Scapula is moving, not a lot of capacity to defend. If I go low now and put pressure, that's going to tear out right there. If I want, I can control that head, or I can far side chin hook, or if I'm not allowed, I'll just put pressure here. If I'm not supposed to put any pressure on the neck, I can short hook from the top and grab the armpit. That gives me good control. And likewise, I can post that hand, and as I walk back, I'm in effect levering that arm quite strongly. So, again, if I go for my north-south scissor, I've got the head, I've got the underhook, I thread through, facing the back to prevent him from riding himself on his belly and getting onto his stomach, and I'm also avoiding any impact from the knees. His heels will be hard-pressed to reach me. I keep my camera side knee close as a pivot, and I yank him over. Cuff that hand nice and deep, use my body as pressure. Keep your head down if you wish. There's a good crank. If I want, I have chin strap, I have cross face, or I have a reverse stockade over into the neck and the short hook into the pit, and I put weight on.